Hey guys, this is Jay Calderon with Jay Unboxing, here giving you a couple of predictions for this coming weekend, starting with the heavyweight clash between world champion Tyson Fury and former titleist Deontay Wilder. I will also be breaking down the other two interesting heavyweight clashes taking place on the undercard, featuring a rematch between Robert Helenius and Adam Kownacki, as well as the Ajagba versus Frank Sanchez contest that will be taking place as well. And as always, this is just my take. Yours can be left down in the comments section. Would love to hear them all. So first for the main event here, I'll give you a little bit of fight info. We have Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, of course, taking place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, live on pay-per-view. It is, of course, a heavyweight clash with the Ring Magazine title as well as the WBC title on the line. So this is it. It's finally here. We have the biggest fight heavyweight boxing has been able to produce this year, and it should give us some of the clarity we need at the top of the sport. So many interesting and compelling storylines heading into this fight that it's hard to keep track. Regardless, most importantly, we know it's an important fight, and all that matters is we need to get to the fight night and settle this score once and for all. No more distractions, no more delays, no more excuses. We just need to get to the fight and get that result. So, does Wilder land that one shot he needs, or will Fury cement his spot as the better man of the two fighters? Let's break it down. Starting with Fury. For Fury to win, I think he needs to keep Wilder guessing. One of the best attributes Fury has to his game is his ability to keep people kind of guessing. That's in and out of the ring, really. He can be aggressive at times, though, in the ring, and he can also box, obviously. What makes it special is that you don't know which version will show up. He seems like the kind of person who will tell you exactly what he'll do, and do it, and also will tell you exactly what he plans on doing and do the exact opposite. And of course, this makes it difficult to plan for that kind of fight. Fury has to lean into that. Come out aggressive in the first few rounds. Maybe push your man back. Then box him for a frame or two while setting traps. Or vice versa. Either way, just make sure Wilder is unaware of what to expect and capitalize off that situation and that hesitation, much like you did in that second encounter. Still, I think it's important to go with this next tip, which is don't allow Wilder to dictate the direction. If Wilder is allowed to come forward consistently, and when he picks and chooses, Fury is giving the American his best chance for success. He's more than able to set traps and allow him to walk into shots, but it has to be done under the control of Fury. He has to be the one to decide when he comes forth, so to speak. Fury can set those traps, make them pay, and then back them up. Hell, just back them up. It's not as if Wilder suddenly mastered the technique of needed to box while backing away. In the end, Fury keeping Wilder moving backwards serves him best on the night as it limits the power Wilder is able to generate that he normally would while on the front foot. And that can lead, of course, to Fury deciding if he wants to bulldoze his man, once more like in that second fight, by just stepping forward and really putting it on him. And finally, let the jab open up room for the right hand. Much like in the second encounter, Fury needs to keep it simple. The difficult part is facing the potential power of Wilder, getting punched in the face by someone who punches really hard. And it's, that's really what you have to get over, is that concern for this, especially now knowing that Wilder and his team know you might try to steamroll him once the bell rings and might be better prepared for it. But what's simple about this fight is the tools you need to use, and that's the same as your initial approach. The right hand down the middle will make the biggest mark on the fight. Yes, as alluded to, the jab and a left hook, for example, can set that shot up, no question. But the right hand will ultimately be the shot that decides this fight for Fury, one way or another. So you might as well get his going. Now, for Wilder to win, you have to regain your confidence. Perhaps in this new training camp with new head trainer Malik Scott, Wilder has truly begun to believe in himself once more. Maybe. Maybe not. But in this fight, during the fight, he needs to land something early on that reminds him he has the ability to change the outcome of any fight with a single shot. While he lacks the power to cosplay on the way to the ring, he does have the power to hurt Fury. That has been shown in their first fight. However, fighting scared doesn't give him enough chances to use that power. Regardless of outcome, Wilder needs to throw shots and land some early to make sure both he and Fury understand that the power is in the hands of the American. He also needs to be willing to throw the right hand while backing up. What Wilder has to also consider is that Fury may try to back him up once more, and that means he won't be able to generate the sort of power he usually does on the front foot. That's just the way it works here, and he has to live in that world. Does that mean Wilder doesn't throw his right hand? No, it means he has to throw it backing up sometimes, just to land, score with it. discourage Fury, just to get Fury to kind of hesitate and give him some room to breathe. If able, use an angle or two to create that room. Either way, if Wilder doesn't throw the right hand, he's throwing the fight away. And finally, don't allow Fury to impose his size upon you. One of the biggest reasons Wilder struggled with Fury coming forward is the fact that it allowed him to sap Wilder's energy by leaning on him. He'll likely outweigh Wilder by anywhere from 25 to 50 pounds on the night. That could happen, legitimately. The only real way that I can imagine Wilder stops this from being another problem for him again in this fight is by pushing him back, by throwing the right hand, forcing himself to do it at times, to make Fury think twice about coming forward. That means he has less chance to lean on you. Ultimately, with Wilder, if he's not landing that right hand in one way or another, he's in for a world of trouble. But again, with him, it only takes one. Now, my pick here, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I have to go with Tyson Fury. Wilder, of course, has a chance. He's a massive puncher, and he all but stopped him in his first encounter. I mean, the question is whether or not he can... Wilder, of course, has a chance. He's a massive puncher, and he all but stopped Fury in their first encounter. The question is whether or not he can do it again, and if he's confident enough to do so. After seeing the job Fury did on Wilder in their second fight, both from a game plan standpoint, but psychologically as well, I don't think he'll get enough chances to land the big right hand, and part of that will be self-induced, based solely on his feel that he might have to just question a lot of what he's most naturally trying to do. I think Fury starts fast again, but a more desperate Wilder lands a right hand that gives Fury some pause. And while he might still do enough to build an early lead with his aggression, he likely plays it safer down the stretch and wins a comfortable decision. I can also see a late stoppage for Fury, but ultimately I'll go with Fury via 12-round unanimous decision. Now, heading into the co-feature bout of the evening, you have Robert Helenius versus Adam Kownacki, and this is in the heavyweight division as well. It's a rematch of their previous encounter that Helenius won by upset, actually, in a pretty big shocker at the heavyweight limit. Starting with Helenius here, he is looking to kind of weather any potential storms and land the shot that drops Kownacki first, similar to their first encounter. He really did it more or less the same way. He knows it can happen once more in the return if he plays his cards right. The left hook works well for Helenius, especially if Adam decides to throw body shots from too far outside as a shorter man and leaves himself vulnerable. And that shot will always help line up a right hand down the middle. What he must avoid, he being Helenius, is too many exchanges where the typically faster-handed Kownacki lands faster. Now for Kownacki, I think he needs to start off by coming in better shape and prepared for an actual fight. Kownacki, I think, underestimated Helenius, and if he comes in the same shape that he faced him with in the first fight, I think it's going to get the same result for him ultimately. If he's about 20 pounds lighter and he's a bit quicker and likely has enough, more pop in his punches, I think he has enough to put a faded Helenius away. What he must avoid is letting himself make errors and mistakes that come from being too slow and out of shape or out of position. Again, dropping in weight can stop a lot of that. Kownacki needs to jab himself inside and shorten up his shots and land them on the usually upright Helenius with authority and regularity. And as for my pick, I do think Kownacki takes it in the return. When he made some major mistakes in that first fight, and it's tough to hinge your bets on someone that poorly prepped for a contest. The reasons for my selection are as follows. Helenius is only getting older and slower. I presume Kownacki will get in better shape and understand the error of his ways, and won't just allow himself to walk into shots seemingly aimlessly once again. Kownacki lands the left hook when on the inside during an exchange and stops Helenius in the middle frames. Kownacki via mid-fight stoppage. And finally, we have Ajagba versus Frank Sanchez. Again, another interesting heavyweight clash between two relatively untested big men. We'll start with Ajagba here. It's not a secret that Ajagba is looking to stay busy in the ring and land his big right hand. He's not exactly one-dimensional. He's a little better than that, but he knows what gives him his best chance for success, and that's power and putting it on his opponent. Still, with Sanchez, he may need to show more wrinkles. So staying too far outside, not moving your head, might give Sanchez too much room to operate and just have an easy time in there. And if it becomes more of a boxing match, the fight favors Frank for sure, especially if he's the one dictating the range and the pace, and Ajagba is just looking for that single shot. Ajagba needs to keep his hands moving while he cuts off the ring, walk Sanchez down, and unload with his heavier shots to have success in this contest. Now for Sanchez, while Sanchez has some decent pop himself, he's certainly much more the boxer between himself and Ajagba. If it has power and outside of activity doesn't rely on much else. Therefore, it makes a lot of sense for Sanchez to look to box a bit more and set traps. The power will still be there, but Sanchez doesn't have to go looking for it as Ajagba will walk right into it. Feint, jab, back away, step to the side, come over the top of the shot. Be creative with your shots and really make Ajagba think. What Sanchez can't afford to do is stay too inactive and allow Ajagba to keep rolling. Landing those shots, moving, setting those traps, and making him miss and making him pay will be key. Now, my pick here with untested heavyweights, the fight can go either way. Of course, it can always go either way in heavyweight boxing, especially when they're untested, and that's kind of my point. However, I tend to lean towards Sanchez in this one. Both have looked sensational in fights, and both have failed to impress in others. I think Sanchez shows up in this one. He looks like a big fight fighter. Perhaps, again, I'm reading this wrong, as always hard to say, but I think he boxes well early on, controls the action, and makes Ajagba pay early for his mistakes. Eventually, I expect that punishment to add up and allow Sanchez to earn a late stoppage. Sanchez via late fight stoppage. Now, there's a lot of betting action here when we get to the betting odds. For Fury versus Wilder, for example, we have Fury at a minus 290 and Wilder at a plus 230. Again, with Wilder's power, that is always a potentially attractive bet, something you might want to lay down. If you're incredibly confident in Fury, you might want to lay a 3-1 bet down. I would not put anything sizable on that, but if you believe he's going to win and you're just looking to pick up an easy $100, if you have the sort of bankroll to back it, is 300 the worst bet you can possibly lay down for that return? Not necessarily. But again, it's heavyweight boxing, so always be careful with that kind of bet. For Helenius Kownacki, I think it's a very good bet. For Helenius, if you think he's able to repeat the success he had in that first fight, he's coming in, Helenius being he, at a plus 215, with Kownacki coming in at a minus 300. To me, even having picked Kownacki in this fight to win in the return, minus 300 is just something I would completely stay away from. I'm, again, with all due respect to the man, I'm not willing to put any kind of money on him when in his most recent fight he showed up very unprepared, in my opinion. Again, if you wanted to lay a small bet, it's just kind of a hopeful odds in your favor kind of thing. Helenius bet at 215, why not? Something small you're willing to lose certainly keeps the fight more interesting for you. The biggest opportunity here is really Sanchez versus Ajagba, though. Sanchez comes in a solid favorite, I suppose, at minus 185, with Ajagba at 145 as a positive there for the underdog role. Both are reasonable bets, again, depending on how confident you are in either man, especially the Ajagba one. Again, he does have the power. Can he land that shot to change the fight? Of course he can. So it's a very interesting, compelling set of lines here for all three fights, with some pretty decent action depending on where you're willing to look. In any event, my prediction record going into the weekend is 32, 11, and 3 with 10 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Love to hear your thoughts, predictions, bets, so on and so forth. Do you pick all three of these heavyweight fights? I'd like to hear who you're kind of going with. That'd be pretty interesting to see how well or poorly all of us do, myself included as well. I will also leave a link in the description box giving you a kind of breakdown of Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder. You can read as a piece that I recently wrote, I should say. So love to you guys check that out and give me some feedback on that as well. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB, and you can email me at junboxing@gmail.com. Love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out junboxing.com for schedule results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.